Here we go.
Good evening.
G'day, Charlie. CJ, it's Nick at After Dark here. How are you this evening?
I'm fine, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Hey, thanks for joining us. That Dance Exponents movie that was made for television recently, you came to life as a character in that, because it's telling their biographical story. How did you react when you saw yourself portrayed in this movie?
Well, it was actually nothing like me because, for a start, he had an Irish accent, which I don't have. and he swore a bit, which I never swore in the shop to my customers, so he was a bit over the top. But, that was cool. He looked a wee bit like me, as I was in those days, But it was just interesting, and the shop was nothing like my shop, because my shop was about 5,000 square feet. And that shop was a very small shop with records, which I never sold either, but... for the general public, it was a music shop, and they wouldn't know, CJs unless they were local people, of course. So, that was cool. It was cool.
Did a researcher contact you during the making of the film, when they were writing it, or did you know nothing about it till it was finished?
No, that's right. They actually rang me from Auckland and asked for my logo, and they said they're from a TV company and asked for a logo of CJs. I wasn't really sure what it was for until it came out, to be quite honest. There you go.
Okay, how did you get into the music? Well, not the music business, but the music retail business. Was it as a musician?
Sort of. My first job when I left school was in a menswear store. I worked for Mann's Menswear, and I was playing the harmonica because when I was at high school, a guy called Bob Stafford, who was in the music department at Beggs, came along to the school and asked, did anybody want to play the harmonica? So I went along to the room and I joined Skipper's harmonica band. And that's when I was about probably 13 or 14. And then I got this job at the menswear store, and then Bob Stafford asked me if I'd like to join Beggs as a junior, which I did, and of course, and then that's where we started from, basically.
So do you have a bit of a track record with the lesser-known instruments? Because I know that you play the piano accordion.
Oh, that's true. We're actually not a piano accordion, it's a button accordion. But,
okay.
It's a bit of it's called a chromatic accordion. It's got 5 rows of buttons. And I only started playing that because when I was working at Beggs, there was one in the basement that was all in bits that Bob Stafford had tried to repair, and it basically failed. And so I put it all together, and then I started working out with the notes and scales and started playing it. And then a guy from the Caledonian Society heard this music coming up from down the basement, and he said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's just Charlie playing the accordion." And he said, "Well, get him up here." And he made me go to the Caledonian Society and play one of the Kayleys. So that's where it started from, basically.
Well, nowadays you're the go-to man for Kayleys. You've been doing it for many years, haven't you?
Yeah, Kayleys, yeah. They had a Scottish country dance band as well in the 70s, and of course I played in Phil Garland's Canterbury Crutchings Bush and Kaylee band as well on the accordion. So that was a fun time.
Okay.
That was good fun days.
So when did you make the move to open your first shop?
Well, my first shop opened in 1973 in the Gloucester Arcade, which had just opened around that time, and there was one shop left. And I had no money, so I sold my old Vauxhall car. I cashed in an insurance policy I had. I went to all the suppliers and asked if they'd give me stock on consignment, and chucked myself into this shop, paying $475 a month, I think it was, for rent, with no money behind me, basically. And that's where it started from.
Now, musicians are not known for having a lot of available cash. Has that been a problem? Has that been a problem over the years for you?
Oh yeah, but that to me it was just a big family, really. I mean, I didn't look at them as people who weren't going to pay their bills. I just sort of, they were friends of mine. I was helping out,
I do know that.
I used to loan gear out a lot to people.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Most times came back.
Yeah, you've been quite well known and appreciated for helping out touring bands now and then when they've needed an amplifier or something like that.
That's right.
So,
well, I think Yeah, it's a two-way thing, really, because, I mean, I got some very loyal customers over the years, of course, because I looked after them, and, you know, it was a two-way thing, really, basically.
Now, you must have had some famous faces wander into the shop over the years. Can you give us a few stories there?
Well, yeah, actually, in fact, in one of the shops I had in Castle Street, I got them to sign the wall. So when they all came through the shop, I used to get them to sign this wall. And when I left that shop and moved 4 doors down the road, which I did, in the same building, I took the wall with me. Because I said to the landlord, look, I'll move as long as, because he wanted me to move because the guy next door wanted to move into my space. And I said, well, I'll move on one condition, I can take the wall with me. So I took all these panels out of the wall, and I've got them in my garage right now. Yeah, amongst those people, I had Joe Walsh sign my wall for me, and Ralph McTell, Dennis Chambers, he signed my wall as well, and Chris Martin IV, of course, from the Martin Guitar Company, because we had a big Martin evening, and he came and signed the wall for me as well. Georgie Fame as well, and quite a few famous people came through the shop over the years, really.
Okay, have you...
Including yourself, Nick.
Have you had many people, or any people that we know actually have come in and tried out a guitar and bought it off you?
Tried out a guitar and bought it?
Yeah, like Jordan Luck might come in and sort of sit down, play an acoustic and say, hey, Charlie, I'll have this.
Oh, yeah, that happened a lot, because I used to encourage people to play stuff in the shop. I never had signs saying don't touch around the shop, you know, never ever. And they were there for people to play, because if they don't play them, they won't buy them, you know, and that was my principle, really. So I always encouraged them to play in the shop. And in fact, the dance inspirators, as you probably know by that doco, found each other through my shop, because they used to come and jam in my shop and sit on the steps going up to my shop. I had about 8 steps up to the shop, and they used to sit there and play, and then they found each other through my notice board.
Well, in the days before Facebook and what have you, you could put an ad in the paper, but we used to go and put ads up in your shop and another retailer as well, and, you know, bass player wanted or whatever, and that was the way you did it.
Yeah, well, I had a big notice board, and I just put these notices up on the board saying bass player wanted or bass player available, and that's how people found each other to make a band. It was very successful. It was very messy, but it was very successful.
Did the earthquakes do your business in? Is that why you finished up?
No, it was before then, actually, because one of the big chains of shops was buying into or going overseas and picking up all of the main brands that I was selling, and so my turnover was dropping away, basically, because I couldn't get access to these large brands of guitars and drums, etc. So it was in 2001. It was 2001 that Musicworks took over my shop.
Oh, so bigger competitors were getting exclusives with Fender or whoever, and it was preventing you from selling their guitars.
That was the problem, yeah. And Musicworks actually was actually formed, and they were just individual shops under the umbrella of Musicworks to counter the monopoly of these other shops, you know. So that's why Musicworks was formed, to counter this problem. But so I actually closed the shop one night as CJ's, and the next morning I opened as Musicworks. It was just like a 12-hour thing, basically.
So was that the shop, or was it Colombo or Manchester Street, near the shops, near South
that was
City?
On the corner, it was Colombo Street on the corner of Wells Street.
Yeah.
Colombo and Wells Street, yeah. It was actually interesting because down the road from my shop in Wells Street was a massage parlour called Charlie's Massage Parlour.
Oh, right.
And interesting enough, they had the same colour logo on their neon sign as I did. And I used to tell people that was my other business, you know, that was the business to make the money. And of course it wasn't, of course.
Well, nowadays you're busy on the market, so tell us a bit about that.
Well, the market's came about because I'd worked for Musicworks from 2001 until 2014. Then I decided I'd rather work for myself again because I'm really an individual, and I was working for a company. And so I decided to leave the shop and start the market. So I went to the record market first, and I've been there 5 years now. I think about 5 years. And then just more recently, I started at the Brighton market as well. So I'm doing 2 markets a week now.
That must be...
They're doing well.
It must be bitterly cold like the last couple of ones you've done.
Oh, mate. Well, yeah, in fact, yesterday was -3, I think, degrees frost, I think it was. And it was so bitterly cold. And of course, I get down there early to set up my stall, so you've got to be there early, and it's dark, and it's cold, and it's miserable, and it takes me about an hour to set up my stuff before the market opens. But yeah, that's all part of it. It's all part of it, really.
Well, it's obviously not time.
But I'm tough.
Yeah, it's obviously not time for you to retire yet, Charlie. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on After Dark this evening.
Oh, that's a pleasure. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Nick.
And
Good to talk to you.
I know that all your efforts with the music community are hugely appreciated. And I look forward to seeing you again, maybe on one of the markets sometime.
Come and buy a ukulele off me, Nick.
Okay. Cheers, Charlie.
Good on you.
Righto. Good
Cheers,
night to
Nick.
you. Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Well, Charlie Jemmet, absolute legend there, and real pleasure to talk to him. I've been to a couple of his ceilidhs, and they're an amazing thing.